Hello again everyone, and welcome back for another Taoism Explained video. Today we are going to read through chapter 23 of Tao Te Ching, and as usual, we'll talk a little bit about some of the meanings that I find inside. So our first version goes like this. Abstaining from speech marks him who is obeying the spontaneity of his nature. A violent wind does not last for a whole morning. A sudden rain does not last for the whole day. To whom is it that these two things are owing? To heaven and earth. If heaven and earth cannot make such spasmodic actings last long, how much less can man? Therefore, when one is making the Tao his business, those who are also pursuing it agree with him in it, and those who are making the manifestation of its course their object agree with him in that, while even those who are failing in both these things agree with him where they fail. Hence, those with whom he agrees as to the Tao have the happiness of attaining to it, those with whom he agrees as to its manifestation have the happiness of attaining to it, and those with whom he agrees in their failure have also the happiness of attaining to the Tao. But when there is not faith sufficient on his part, a want of faith in him ensues on the part of the others. Our next translation goes like this. To be taciturn is the natural way. A hurricane does not outlast the morning. A cloudburst does not outlast the day. Who causes these events but heaven and earth? If even heaven and earth cannot be unremitting, will not man be much less so? Those who pursue their business in reason, men of reason, associate in reason. Those who pursue their business in virtue associate in virtue. Those who pursue their business in ill luck associate in ill luck. When men associate in reason, reason makes them glad to find companions. When men associate in virtue, virtue makes them glad to find companions. When men associate in ill luck makes them glad to find companions. If your faith is insufficient, verily shall ye receive no faith. And the final translation is as follows. Taciturnity is natural to man. A whirlwind never outlasts the morning, nor a violent rain the day. What is the cause? It is heaven and earth. If even heaven and earth are not constant, much less can man be. Therefore he who pursues his affairs in the spirit of Tao will become Tao-like. He who pursues his affairs with the Te will become the Te-like. He who pursues his affairs with loss identifies himself with loss. He who identifies himself with Tao, Tao rejoices to guide. He who identifies himself with Te, Te rejoices to reward. And he who identifies himself with loss, loss rejoices to ruin. If his faith fail, he will receive no reward of faith. So those were sort of intense translations in comparison to most of the other ones that we've read of the other chapters. They didn't seem to have that much in common, and there was a little bit of general weirdness going throughout them. But I'd like to say that this time Lao Tzu seems to be pointing to the idea that being quiet or speaking little is a natural thing. It isn't something that should be thought of as weird or odd in any way. This is a little bit of a delicate thing that we can go into a little bit more. So being quiet, let's say on purpose, because, for example, you already know that everyone else around you is just an idiot and would never understand whatever it is that you're talking about. That isn't what Lao Tzu is saying here. We aren't quiet because we choose to be quiet. We are just quiet by nature. Being obnoxious and chattering to no end would, in this sense, be considered unnatural. So violent winds and heavy rains don't continue on all morning, or they don't continue on forever. Just in the same way that constantly speaking, doing the whole blah 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 blah, shouldn't go on for too awfully long. And if heaven and earth can't even make winds and rains continue on forever, then how could we as mere mortals think to do the same? There's a bit of a switch up next. Those who follow the Tao are at one with it, and those who act in a virtuous way are therefore virtuous. If we are in accord, we are welcomed. If we are virtuous, virtue embraces us. If we don't trust other people, then we, in turn, won't be trusted by other people. These last lines of the chapter seem to be telling us straight up that we need to accept our lives and therefore the circumstances that we find ourselves in. This is the most rewarding way to navigate through this existence. Holding the reins every now and then, having a general direction in which you want the ship to sail in, is a great plan, but at the end of the day, what happens between now and then is the juicy stuff. That's where life and adventure happens. If we're always being control freaks trying to micromanage all of the little details in our lives, then we miss the point. The ship has already sailed and we were left on the shore. And I certainly wouldn't want that. So for this chapter, what I think we should take from it is this. Life is a mysterious happening. Our existence is a paradox and only seems to make sense from a distance. Instead of constantly overthinking and overanalyzing our situations and circumstances, we ought to just get going in the direction that we want for ourselves and find a way to let go in the meantime, to lose ourselves while we enjoy the little treasures that we find along the way.